The following is a hockey podcast out of Vancouver and Surrey, British Columbia. It'll only consist of a lot of puck talk and even more BS, or in actual words, banter and satire. Enjoy, and as always, go Canucks go.
If Lekkerimaki and Pettersson save the Vancouver Canucks, me and my Punjabi girlfriend are going to get married in Sweden and build a family out there and be the first Punjabi, Swedish, Hindu family of all time.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You heard it, Pettersson. Do it for Kyle and his girl. Save the Vancouver Canucks. Whether or not he does that, we got you covered here on Locked On Canucks. Welcome to the show today. I'm Trevor Beggs, co-host of Locked On Canucks, also a Canucks writer with Daily Hive Vancouver. Before we dive into the show, we got to thank you for tuning into Locked On Canucks, because you listening, you are what make Locked On Canucks what it is. We're not here without you, and we're also not here without those sponsors. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Start your year with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets if you win or lose your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Yeah, no pressure, Mr. 11.6. It's on you to save the Vancouver Canucks. But aside from that, another thing that could help steer the Canucks season in a different direction would be Jonathan Lekkerimaki. No pressure, kid. Today on today's show, we're going to tell you why Lekkerimaki should probably stick with the Vancouver Canucks for the rest of the season. What? Let's dive into that to kick off the show. We'll also get into Elias Pettersson, updates on him in terms of his injury, his recent conversation with Ian McIntyre, and if he can indeed save the Vancouver Canucks. We'll also touch on the defense as well, specifically Eric Branstrom. Where you been, bud? Why have you been invisible the last 3 games? All that and more coming up. But before we get to it, let me introduce my co-host. He might be shopping for the ring if Pettersson comes back and gets a hat trick. Kyle Ballon, what's going on, brother?
Oh, you don't want to talk about Mika Zibanejad and how the Canucks rejected a Zibanejad for Miller trade months ago? The other Swedish guy? Anyways, man, what are we doing, man? Can we just talk about wins? Can we talk about solutions? Speaking of which, maybe Jonathan Lekkerimaki is a solution. Maybe Elias Pettersson coming back ASAP and not losing a beat, right? Building off what he did against San Jose in December of 2024, right? Like, can he just keep that momentum going after missing multiple games? Who knows? But he kind of has to. You want to talk about Mission Impossible? I wonder how much grace Pettersson is going to get again when he returns to the lineup, because right now there's no time for grace. There's just time for great. Hey, speaking of which, Lekkerimaki, I could still use a lot more of what I saw last night. An efficient, a handful of minutes for that guy. A goal and an assist looked really promising in the second period. And man, again, I want to touch on this before you go on your little ramble about Lekkerimaki and him possibly being a fixture for the Vancouver Canucks. Again, I'm just super impressed that he was able to absorb a powerful check in the NHL in his first call-up as an emergency, in his first shift as an emergency call-up, and still play a tough game. Still not be scared to, go behind the net, go along the boards, do his thing. And again, capitalize on the second period where he got 2 points. I thought it was a strong showing for a guy that, again, we may need more of this season, which is a surprise. But Trevor, for so many reasons, again, Lekkerimaki kind of has to be one of those guys for us.
Well, the tables have turned in Vancouver, as we all know, right? And I think early on in the season, we were all believing, well, look at this deep forward group. This team, they don't need Lekkerimaki up here. They don't have room for him up here. And then what's happened since is a couple things. I think first and foremost, they trade Daniel Sprong, who's a guy who I guess beat out Lekkerimaki during preseason. I mean, Lekkerimaki looked good, but Sprong looked good as well. They go and trade Daniel Sprong for a bag of pucks. And the second thing that's happened is, sure, the forward group has depth and, the floor is high with their work rate, but they just don't have enough guys like Lekkerimaki who can shoot the puck. The biggest problem with the Canucks right now, and I feel like I need to get it tattooed on my forehead, is shoot the puck. And that's something Lekkerimaki does incredibly well. We saw it last night on that 2-on-1 rush, snapping it just above the pad, just below the blocker on Sam Montembeault for his second career NHL goal. And I think for a Canucks team that, again, is taking the lowest amount of shots on goal since about mid-November, this is about a 2-month stretch where they have been allergic to getting the puck on net, I think they need a guy like Lekkerimaki in the lineup. Whether he plays with Miller or Pettersson, I think he's a guy that does have to show enough to stick in the top 6. He at least did it for one game. But let's see if it can continue, because again, you look what he's doing in the AHL right now. And right now, 12 goals in 21 games. Those 12 goals, it leads all U21 players in the AHL right now. His shots on goal right now, despite only playing 21 games, he ranks 20th overall in the AHL in terms of shots on goal.
Damn.
A lot of the guys ahead of him, he's certainly played the lowest amount of games of the guys ahead of him, but most guys have played about 10 games more than him so far. And he's still in the top 20 in terms of shots on goal. I mean, it's a young player. He's got his warts. He's probably going to get pushed around a bit. But he's shown to be, at least competent defensively. And again, the Canucks need a guy like that who can not only shoot the puck, but shoot the puck from anywhere and look dangerous while doing it.
Yeah, man. Somebody that can make a play. And I'm getting pretty tired of again, Rick Tocchet only wanting a certain niche of player in his system, right? And that player has to be, again, a player that is just good everywhere, strong everywhere. Emphasis on strong, right? Big and strong, all that jazz. How about we just sprinkle in a little bit of fun, a little bit of pizzazz? How about having more patience for that? Because right now, we need a little bit more sauce, man. Here's the thing: is Rick Tocchet a saucy coach? I don't know. We've seen that video of him cooking spaghetti back in the day. You know what I'm saying? Pretty basic stuff. He needs to upgrade the sauce. We need to sprinkle in some more fun. Again, keep Lekkerimaki up if he deserves it. And I don't know if him deserving it only equates to, again, him being a two-way force. There's going to be ups and downs in his game, but I would be patient with him. He's a breath of fresh air in that room, too. And again, as Trevor alluded to, we need shots. We need offense. We need poise. It was nice to see a guy on a 2-on-1 just rip it and get that goal. Again, it would be so ironic if he was one of the saviors this year. Somebody that we did not expect to, I guess, do the most. But man, oh man, he's going to get an opportunity here. And wow, him versus Ovechkin tomorrow, man. Lekkerimaki versus Alexander Ovechkin. You can't make this stuff up, man. You can't make this stuff up.
Man,
but in all honesty, there's a chance there because he's played maybe 7 or 8 games this year. I'm not going to say he's looked good in every single game. I think he's looked invisible in half of them as well. But in his first call-up, way back when, outside of that one play that Miller and him created against the Islanders where he scored his first goal, man, Lekkerimaki was playing with a shell of a JT Miller. And yesterday he played with a guy who had 4 points. So I wonder if, whether it be Pettersson or Miller, if Lekkerimaki centers are going, what does that mean for his production? I'm curious to see if it's fascinating in a good way.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, he's got to play with Miller Pettersson. We saw, I think it was a game of, I believe it was Bluger, Heinen, and Lekkerimaki during his call-up, and it just looked awkward because it is awkward. He's not a guy that can make it work in the bottom 6 there. Save that for Nils Höglander. Put Connor Garland back on a third line with Joshua and Bluger Suter. He's a guy that's got to play with elite players because he needs those elite players to get him the puck. That's the bread and butter of his game. I mean, look at his stats in Sweden last year. He's got more goals and assists. This year, he's got 12 goals and 5 assists with the Abbotsford Canucks. He's a guy that thrives in shooting positions if his centers can get him there. And both JT Miller and Elias Pettersson should have the capability to do that. JT Miller did have the capability to do that last night. In fact, burying one of his rebounds was a pretty shrewd look as well. And look, I think Lekkerimaki can build some confidence as well with playing with Miller or Pettersson. And yeah, I just think the Canucks right now, again, they're getting they're averaging 22 to 23 shots a game over the last 2 months, just pathetic, dreadful numbers. And you got a guy here in Jonathan Lekkerimaki who in the AHL is literally averaging 4 shots per game. Mm-hmm. No Canuck is doing that in the NHL. And not to say Lekkerimaki can come up and start averaging 4 shots a game, but he can probably get a couple on net every night if he's playing with elite centers.
Yeah, man. And I don't know if we sound so what's the word I'm looking for? Redundant, annoying, or annoyed when it comes to everything revolving around the Canucks and their lack of shots, right? It's ironic too, because as Trevor and I have gotten older, we take less shots. When we go out to the bar, we're not really looking forward to the shots, right? We're just more, 31 and a half years old. They just give us a nice pint, We're not that wild, but here we are again, just demanding shots, shot after shot after shot after shot. And it's the little things in the game. It's the details within the game. And for me specifically, I have no faith until the Canucks get Hronek back and acquire one more guy, or maybe wait till Tom Willander comes to the lineup. Who knows, that this team will be able to be one of those transition-like teams, right? Defense to the neutral zone, to the offensive zone. They're just able to wheel the puck around and do their thing. That's not them. For them, it's like barely, like, as Taka alluded to, swat the puck out of the zone. That's all we've been doing. He doesn't want that to happen, but that's all these guys can do. Okay, Jules and Susie and Desharnais, that's their play. Bring it around the boards. Hopefully it comes out. And if it gets to one of our players, it's going to be in their shins. It doesn't equate to sexiness. It doesn't equate to offensive generation. That being said, if the Canucks somehow in the offensive zone can generate more shots, I promise you, just based on the sheer fact that their goaltender, the other goaltender, will cover up the puck more, right, will allow the game to be more in our balance, to be more in our favor. Straight up, just the little things. More offensive zone draws. It calms down the team. We're not panicking. We're not relying again on these trunks in the back end to transition. Let's just have the puck in the offensive zone. Even if we don't have a play, let's just take a shot and get an offensive zone faceoff and generate from there. Start from there. Like the little things. So again, Lekkerimaki joined the lineup. Can he generate offense, or can he just generate more offensive zone faceoffs? I know it sounds crazy, but the Canucks need like every bit of that right now, because again, I feel like they get outworked and they're not. I think Taka alluded to this morning. Like, he was looking at the offensive zone time for the Vancouver Canucks, and it was garbage yesterday. Garbage.
Yeah.
But it was the same thing game in and game out. We're barely spending time in the other team's zone. So can we just take some shots and get some faceoffs down there, please?
Shots. Lekkerimaki. There we go, buddy. That's the energy that Lekkerimaki is going to bring to the hockey team. Let us know in the comments or wherever you like to connect with us. Should the Canucks keep Lekkerimaki with the team for the rest of the season? Right now, I'm leaning yes until some other guys on this team can start showing that they can get scoring chances on net with regularity. Mm-hmm. On the other side, let's talk about a guy who could be playing with Lekkerimaki and Elias Pettersson. Where is he at in terms of his injury? And what did he talk about in terms of after being called out by Canucks management? Let's dive into good old Elias Pettersson on the other side. We'll also get to Eric Brancham later on. You're listening to Locked On Canucks, your Canucks every damn day. We'll be back after shouting at our friends over at FanDuel. Man, oh man, if you're believing in the Canucks to do some St. Louis Blues like stuff, I might call you crazy, but I'm looking at the Stanley Cup odds on FanDuel, and they've dropped. We kept saying, Kyle, in August and September, FanDuel's disrespecting the Canucks. They had the 11th to 14th best odds for a while there, and couldn't seem to climb the rankings despite being one of the best teams in hockey last season. Well, FanDuel, man, call it fix. I don't know, but they might have been onto something. As of right now, the Vancouver Canucks plus 3,100 to win the Stanley Cup, according to FanDuel. That leaves them in 14th place, not really far off from where they were earlier in the year, but the odds before were about 2,200. So odds are dropping on those Vancouver Canucks, and we can see why. And if you're a new customer, whether you want to bet on the Canucks to win the Cup or whatever else, if you bet $5, you'll get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same game parlays, and so much more. So just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets on FanDuel.com.
Boom, bam. People, we back doing this, and that's talking about your Vancouver Canucks, Trevor Beggs, Kyle Mound. Hey, do us all a favor right now on the YouTube side of things and hit the like button, okay? I know we've been bitching about the Canucks for like weeks, and this is turning into a depressing program. I'm trying to get out of it, but hey, positivity, right? You just share it around, hit the like button, and see what happens. Speaking of which, though, that negativity, can we get to some of it via your comments? Okay, this one comes from my aunt, okay? She's saying, Kyle, you really seem to be jumping off the Tocchet bandwagon. And Matt Folger, man, saying that, yeah, Kyle has the Tocchet fatigue. I'm not off the bandwagon. I really am not. Straight up, I'm not. Like, I understand that Tockett's the man. He's the coach for the job. Like I want him to be here for a long time. I want this organization to be secure for a bit. You know what I'm saying? Not bouncing in and around head coaches. I'm not on the fire Rick Tocchet wagon. I think that's some like idiot logic. Even though the Canucks have been lackluster offensively for a pretty long time, and even though I've been mentioning what happened in the Nashville series and how maybe I shouldn't look at that as a complete positive. I know I'm going crazy. Okay, did the Canucks get lucky against Nashville? I don't know. Okay, I know I'm saying all these things, but again, I think Tocchet has to just evolve in so many ways. I think he has to be more of a hard ass to the players, and I think he has to let go of the wheel just a bit. Straight up. You hear him even talk today about players needing to be better and all this stuff. And it's like, dude, you're playing the same guys that are making mistakes time in and time out. Yet you choose to, again, scratch Brandstrom every chance you get. And it's a little strange. And I know we got to talk about Brandstrom in the third segment, but his lack of accountability to people who are over 6 feet tall is getting a little annoying. I'm not going to lie. Anyways, Elias Pettersson, talk about him.
Yeah, they're going to jump to Brandstrom first. But in terms of Elias Pettersson, I think first and foremost, the injury update. So the reporting that came out yesterday was that he was a game time decision before Rick Tocchet gave his media availability. And obviously, we learned that he probably wasn't going to play in Montreal. But the fact that he was close up to being a game time decision before Tocchet's press conference suggests that he's probably likely to play against the Washington Capitals on Wednesday. And God damn it, this team needs Hughes, Miller, and Pettersson in the lineup right now. I know Miller and Pettersson haven't been at their best, but Miller potentially arisen from the dead last night against the Montreal Canadiens, a 4-point night, a point on every single one of the Canucks goals. And man, oh man, if this team, what have we said time and time again, Kyle, every day is no, if this team can just get Hughes, Miller, and Pettersson all going, and they're getting the goaltending from Lankinen, it's going to cover up a lot of warts on this team. The problem is that they haven't had all three of those guys going at all for any stretch in a single game yet this season. But if that happens, if Pettersson can come back and find his old form, and we've been saying that for a while, this is a guy who has what I believe the stat was something like, I can pull it up right here. He has, since signing his contract, including playoffs, 16 goals and 48 points in his last 67 games. Those are Bo Horvat second line center numbers. They are not Elias Pettersson numbers.
Those are Jonathan Huberdeau numbers from like a couple years ago, man.
Jonathan Huberdeau, who leads the Calgary Flames in scoring. I was trashing lots of Calgary Flames fans about Huberdeau in Calgary, so hopefully the bad karma's not coming back my way. But again, Elias Pettersson, close to returning. I did have some quotes with Ian McIntyre. I think one of the things that stood out to me most, I think Pettersson does a good job of not saying too much. Obviously that he's, it says, quote, "I know I can do better. I'll be the first one to say it. I never think things can get easier." And that was in response to Ian McIntyre asking him about Patrick Allvin's quote, where he said, quote, "Pettersson hasn't really accomplished anything yet." And he's got a point to an extent. I mean, look, he's accomplished something in the sense that he's been a borderline superstar point per game player throughout most of his NHL career. But the last 12 months has been a very weird and odd version of Pettersson. But I said time and time again, I'm still believing in this guy. I think if you get Miller and Pettersson going with Hughes in this lineup, it's going to erase a lot of the doubts about the Vancouver Canucks, a lot of the rumors, a lot of the noise. And they kind of need it during this stretch. They are hanging on to their playoff lives right now, heading into the break for the Four Nations. And they need to pick up some wins here desperately, or at least look better on this tough stretch where they play. Again, what we said last night, Kyle, 8 of their next 9 games are against teams who are top 9 or better in the NHL.
Dude, if those guys get going all together, Miller, Hughes, and Pettersson, the Canucks can do what I kept saying they had to do in September and August. And I don't know if you remember this, Trevor, but I kept saying it, and I was like, yo, this team's going to win games this year by outscoring their problems. The Vancouver Canucks have allowed 5 goals or more in 10 games is it 9 or 10 games this season? I think it might be 10. Last year, they allowed 5 goals or more in 9 games the whole season. We're not even at the halfway point this season. The Canucks have taken such a step back defensively that, again, this notion by Tocchet and company that they need to lean on the defensive side of things or just lean on these tree trunks to build the base for this team, in my mind, is just backwards. Like, let's just do our best to have, as many puck movers as possible, so Hughes and Pettersson get the puck more often. I know they've been struggling this year for the most part, those two specifically, but hey, let's hope that they can get going so that when they are going, the Canucks can win games 4-3, 5-4. Or, maybe 5-2 if Demko and Lankinen are on their game. Because again, again, Trevor, this sounds and this may not bode well for our playoff success, even though Stefan Johansson thinks that this is going to be the year for us. One left to Stefan. I don't know if the Canucks are built for playoff success this year, but they can definitely turn this ship around if, ironically, like just lean into the offense, outscore all their problems. It's that time. Like, listen to Kyle, man. I'm sorry. Just listen to me. It's the truth. We ain't going anywhere if the Canucks don't outscore their problems.
Yeah, well, 100%. And again, they got the guns to do it. That was part of the recipe for success last season. But again, we're at a low for this team right now. And I think Mother Knucker brings up something good in the comments here. And I don't know if we're gonna get banned for this, but he mentions Dylan Strome, who we're gonna see tomorrow night with the Washington Capitals. Strome has resurrected his career this season for sure, but even last season as well. He said, hopefully Petey comes back and shows his erection. Wait, what? Oh my God, I can't say it on air.
I don't think he was trying to say it. I think he was gonna try to say like projection or something. I don't know. Typo.
Mother Knucker's a wild boy.
Yeah, Mother Knucker's algorithm is a little weird. Yeah, ironically, I did want to talk about Washington too before we go off on the Brandstrom rant at the end of the show. But look at Washington. Of course, they got so many new players, right? Some people like to compare Pettersson to Pierre-Luc Dubois too. I don't like that comparison, but hey, they got Dubois, they got Chikrin. They made the plays they had to play to be a better team, building off of what they did last year, which was mediocrity. That still got them in the playoffs. Again, their goal differential was like negative 6,000, but they made the playoffs because, again, when you get points in overtime and do all this jazz and you get good goaltending, you can make the playoffs. Okay. All in all, though, I can't think of a better team for the Canucks to face off, considering that, in my opinion, the Canucks need a humbling. And I guarantee, I haven't watched all of the Capitals games, but I guarantee we're going to face one of the hardest working teams in hockey tomorrow in Washington. And that's why they're doing so well this year. Of course, they tapered off in recent history, yet they're still at the top of the standings. They're doing their thing. But I look at the paper and look at who's on that team. And I can't say that they're quote unquote better than the Canucks on paper. I can't do that. But I guarantee that they're listening to their head coach. They're all bought in to being Washington Capitals, and they're working their asses off. And that's what the Canucks need to get back to. Like, that's what any team that's trying to climb out of the gutter and be relevant again, I think in the first 2 to 3 years of finding success, you best believe that you have to be the hardest working team game in and game out. And that's what the Canucks have lost as a part of their identity. That is actually the truth. And that's why sometimes I get pissed off at Tocchet that he's not holding everyone accountable. He's just choosing his favorites to hold accountable. It's, again, Swedish players that are under 6 feet tall, you guys are getting healthy scratched, okay? Höglander and Brandstrom, you guys are the only ones. It's literally the truth right now. Nobody else, though. Oh, Juleson, you're making tons of mistakes. Oh, Carson Soucy, you're making a lot of mistakes. Oh, you can't scratch Carson Soucy. He's making $3 million. Höglander's making $3 million next year, too.
Yeah.
These guys got to work harder. And when it comes to, like, me emphasizing that certain guys in the back end are not working hard enough, maybe they're trying too hard, some people would argue, right? That's why they're making tons of mistakes. But, bro, you look at the film yesterday, and you're looking at a soft group of tall defensemen getting freaking worked along the boards, shift in and shift out. And that's a sign of them not working hard enough. So, again, I just want to talk and hold more people accountable, man, for real.
Yeah, they got worked by the small, slick, and speedy Montreal Canadiens. That's why. Kyle, on the other side, he mentions some talk about Washington. I'm going to say that for tomorrow's episode. I got some thoughts on them. But what I do want to get to on the other side is my thoughts on what the Canucks should do with the defense. Because, again, Eric Brandstrom, he needs to get back in this lineup because there's about 3 other guys, I believe, that need to be scratched in his place. That's coming up on the other side here on Locked On Canucks, your Canucks every day. We'll be back after showing at our friends over at Rocket Money. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? That's happened to me more times than I can count, unfortunately. And Rocket Money, they made it so easy to track them all down. Thanks, Rocket Money. You're like having a personal assistant for my finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions. They also help you monitor your spending, help lower your bills, oh baby, and help you also grow your savings. Rocket Money brings together everything in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Like going to Cactus Club with your buddy and his soon-to-be fiance. What? Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. So go cancel your unwanted subscriptions today and save that money for Cactus Club, baby. Go reach your financial goals with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon.
People, we back doing this, and that's talking about your Vancouver Canucks, Kyle Bound, Trevor Beggs. How sweet would it be, or how sweet would it be if a bunch of Swedish players just saved the Vancouver Canucks? Elias Pettersson, Jonathan Lekkerimaki, hell, I don't even know. Maybe Tom Willander plays for the Canucks in late March. Who knows? And maybe Eric Brandstrom comes back into the lineup. Before we go on that ramble, though, Beggs, I want to talk about something else, okay? Again, I don't know if something is wrong with me, if I do need therapy, if I need to just take a break from doing this show for a little bit, because I feel like I might be overstressing about the Vancouver Canucks, okay? Beggsy, I'm a big-time Packers fan. The Packers went 11-6 this year. They lost to the Chicago Bears. But I'm telling you, every single time the Packers lost this year, I found moral victories in everything. I did. A bit softer with a team that is the youngest team in the NFL. And again, I'm more patient, but here I am in year 2 of the Canucks being good and being in a playoff position. They're still in a playoff position, and I'm just overall more angry. Does that have more to do with me, or again, more to do with the Canucks, just in my opinion, just lacking effort? Because the more and more I watch sports, I realize that, yeah, you need to win and it's about the results, right? It's a results-oriented business, but in a long 82-game season, it really is about the process, and the process has been really inconsistent this year.
Yeah, it hurts me to talk about your Packers, man. That really makes my erection suffer. But no, your Packers have been a playoff team all season long, right? So even when they've been losing games, I think you're still pretty confident that they're going to go in the playoffs. They have a chance to make some noise. And right now about the Canucks, you could say that there's a similar feeling, but at this point, it's like we're worried about them making the playoffs. I think that's where a lot of the stress comes from. That coupled with the work rate, the fact that they don't generate enough of their own opportunities. I think that's part of the problem. But Kyle, man, oh man, we might have to get a petition from the people to keep you here on Locked On Canucks, because I worried about this, right? When we joined the show, March 1st, 2023, you're an emotional guy, and it's been nothing but roses and sunshine for the most part since we started. And now that we're going through a tough stretch, I'm a little bit worried about you jumping ship, man. I'm not going to lie.
I'm not going to jump ship, but I might need a day off or two, man. Straight up. But again, can this team just work harder, man? Look at this comment, okay? I think it came from Carmen. It was a really good comment, okay? One of the comments of the year. And Rick Tockett, man, I hope you're watching the show, because we can't be this stupid, okay? For real. Something ain't right here. Again, this comment comes from Carmen, always a quality commentary. He's saying, clearly the trees at the back end aren't doing their job at defending leads and playing shutdown D. I'll also add that they're not even playing tough, to be honest. So maybe we need to upgrade the offense by getting more puck movers. That's the thing too, Trevor. It's insanity at this point. Whether it be the Juleson and Susie thing, whether it be again, doing the same thing time in and time out when we have a lead. That's sit back. Why are we sitting back? Allowing the other team to have the puck more, or just dumping it into our zone more, having the slowest defense and pick it up, then having to force them to make a play around the boards. It's like the same stuff, the most predictable defense. And at the end of the day, if that's how Tockett wants to defend, and he believes that he has the horses to do so, and can honestly see that these guys can't get the job done, why isn't he holding these guys accountable? I want to know that. How come we've seen more of Noah Juleson and Vincent Desharnais, and just Noah Juleson more specifically, based on the fact that he's been a 7th or 8th D-man his whole career? How come we've seen him more than Brandstrom? I don't get it. I understand that Brandstrom has struggled in recent history in his last 5 to 6 to 7 games, but you cannot tell me that he's been consistently worse Then again, Vincent Darnay, Noah Juleson, and I hate to do this because I'm a big Carson Soucy fan, but Carson Soucy has put together another 3 or 4 or 5 game stretch where he's been horrible.
Yeah. Well, and again, we talked so much about the Canucks not being able to move the puck off the ice, and I see Oliver Schuldick in the comments all saying Jules in the top 4 is wild. He was our 7th best D last year, and you could argue he's been the 7th best D this year. Guy, here's a crazy stat for you, and this is kind of diving into the weeds a bit, but in terms of expected goals for, so how much offense is generated with said player on the ice, 240 defensemen this season have played at least 100 minutes. Every single defenseman on the Canucks, aside from Brandstrom, Hronek, and Hughes, are in the bottom 30. All right.
Holy shit.
I mean, there's just nothing happening on the ice with Myers, with Juleson, with Desharnais, with Forbort, with Soucy, or with Juleson. I mean, those players are just black holes offensively, and there's too many of these players in the lineup. And I think it's pretty clear for you and I to see. Again, to me, it is kind of a mind-boggling thing that Eric Branch has been sitting on the sidelines now. In terms of the defense moving forward, I think, in my mind, one of Forbort, Soucy, or Juleson's got to come out, right? And if you're looking at a left side guy, it would make more sense if it's Soucy or Forbort, but I would argue maybe Juleson might be the most deserving guy to come out right now. So I think here's my proposal for the defense heading into Wednesday in Washington. This isn't going to happen because Talkie likes his righty-lefty guys, but Carson Soucy is a guy who's played on his offside before. I also think Carson Soucy's a guy this team needs at the level he's playing at last year. They banked on him this season, and he has not delivered. I think Hughes should spend a game or two with Carson Soucy on his right side. Let Carson Soucy get some of that Quinn Hughes mojo to get his game back on track. Okay. It kind of worked for Tyler Myers. He's looked a bit better recently. So what I would like to see heading into the next game, and this, isn't perfect, but I like to see Hughes and Soucy on the top pair. I like to see Brandstrom back with Desharnais. I mean, was a weird pair for a bit there, but Desharnais looked better the last 5 games. Brandstrom can move the puck. I think those two can kind of hold their own as a pair right now. Their underlying numbers as a pair have been good this season. And on your third pair, just keep Forbort and Myers together. Hopefully, maybe Myers can pass on the Quinn Hughes juju to Derek Forbort. But that's what I want to see. Hughes, Soucy, Brandstrom with Desharnais, and then Forbort and Myers, Sid Juleson for a game. Give it a shot, baby. Let's go.
That's one of the scariest stats. I haven't even been mentioning Forbort a lot recently, and I'm giving him a lot of the benefit of the doubt too, considering like what he's been going through with injury, illness, and his father passing away. So maybe like my mind is like subconsciously taking him away from getting some of my verbal abuse. But man, oh man, like what a scary, scary stat that Trevor just spewed out. Literally saying that the Canucks have 4 to 5 of the worst, like 30 to 50 defensemen in the league playing quality minutes, game in and game out. And more specifically, again, like it's one thing to want a similar stature or style of player throughout your decor, but it's also another to bank on that, knowing that 80% of these guys lack puck skills. They lack poise. Again, just insanity. And at least when you put Brandstrom in, he has the confidence, maybe sometimes too much confidence, but has the confidence that he will want to do something. And I don't want, like, again, evolution, Talkett needing to get better, him needing to get humbled. Like, you don't want your head coach being wrong too much, but I hope when Brandstrom comes into the lineup and gives the Canucks an obvious boost, that like Talkett never does what he's doing again. And bro, like, look at the beginning of the season when the Canucks were picking up wins. I know they're getting better goaltending, but who was playing a lot of games? Eric Brandstrom was playing like 99.9% of those games. The moment you tinkering and started like holding him accountable for being small and maybe losing a couple board battles, like this chaotic up and down swing with, I guess you got to accompany that with Hughes' injury and Hronek's injury too, but it just seems as if like it was way too early to pull the plug on Brandstrom. And I hope you're right. I hope he's back in the lineup tomorrow, man. I know, again, a lot of people are like, yo, you guys are crazy thinking Brandstrom's a savior. Like, chill out. He's not the that's not the problem. That's not the problem. I'm telling you, one of the biggest problems with the Canucks right now is Rick Tocchet and Adam Foote not being able to get over themselves, right? And let's draw this all the way back to July 1st. Why do you think Vincent Darnay is a Canuck? I wonder how much you want to blame Patrick Allvin for that, or you want to blame the guys that hopped on the phone to call Vincent Desharnais and drag him to Vancouver. Oh, who was that? It was Adam Foote and Rick Tocchet. Enough said.
Enough said. A couple more stat drops on Eric Brancham. Let's get out of here. Eric Brancham with 3 goals and 8 points on the season. That 3 goals is second among all Canuck defensemen, behind only Quinn Hughes, of course. And his 8 points is behind Philip Hronek, who's missed a bunch of time, and Tyler Myers, except Tyler Myers is 2 points ahead of Brancham despite playing 11 more games. Bottom line, I don't really care if they don't trust Eric Brancham on the PK. By the way, Brancham did do a ton of PK in Ottawa as well. Get Eric Brancham back in the lineup. There's no excuse at this point. How sweet it is to have these Swedes on the Vancouver Canucks. Shout out to Sweden and shout out to you for tuning into this episode of Locked On Canucks. From everyone, from the everydayers to the first-time listeners and everyone in between, we appreciate the hell out of all of you for tuning in to Locked On Canucks. If you like what we're doing, go subscribe and like on YouTube on the podcast side. Oh, baby, go follow us and leave a good old 5-star review. But for now, we got to get out of here. I'm Trevor Beggs. That guy's Kyle Bound. And you've been listening to Locked On Canucks.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.